Daniel adjusted the controls of his small exploration ship, the Orion's Edge, as it sailed through the black stretch of space. The stars outside were bright, scattered like tiny diamonds across an endless canvas. He had been on many missions before, but something about this trip felt different. The sensors on his ship had picked up an uncharted planet, one that didn't appear on any of the galactic maps. He knew the risk of visiting unknown worlds, but curiosity had always been part of him. "Just a quick scan," he muttered to himself. "Then I head back home." As the ship approached the planet, Daniel noticed that its surface shimmered faintly. It wasn't an ordinary planet. The landscape below appeared metallic in some areas, with towering structures that reflected light like polished mirrors. Even from orbit, it seemed alive in some strange mechanical way. "Interesting," he said aloud. He carefully began his descent. The ship trembled as it entered the atmosphere. Clouds swirled, dense and silver, with occasional flashes of lightning, though the storm seemed unusual, not like any natural weather he had seen. The instruments in his cockpit began to beep erratically. Engine instability. Control compromised, Daniel gritted his teeth. He tried adjusting the thrusters, but the ship spun violently, crashing through the cloud layer. The Orion's Edge hit the planet's surface with a harsh screech, throwing him against his seat. Alarms rang, sparks flew, and smoke filled the cabin. Daniel coughed, his hand pressed against a small cut on his forehead, and looked around. The ship was badly damaged, but the cockpit was intact. He exhaled slowly. "I'm still alive." "That's something." When he stepped outside, the air was thick and sharp. He could smell faint chemicals and something metallic. The sky was tinted with green and purple hues, swirling like oil on water. Daniel's boots crunched against the uneven ground. The landscape was alien, with jagged metallic cliffs rising from the planet's surface, and strange plant-like structures, silver and blue, moved as if alive. Before he could explore further, a shadow passed over him. Daniel froze. Several beings approached, their forms tall and imposing. The creatures were unlike anything he had seen. Their skin was pale silver with subtle scales, their eyes large and glowing faintly blue. Each of them moved with calculated precision, radiating a quiet authority. The leader stepped forward. Its voice was calm but firm, carried in a tone that resonated directly in Daniel's mind rather than through sound. "Human, you are trespassing on Zaylaran territory. State your purpose." Daniel swallowed, fighting a shiver of fear. I'm an explorer. My ship crashed. I didn't mean to come here." The alien tilted its head, studying him. "You are fragile, yet you stand unafraid. Interesting." Daniel realized that showing fear would only make them more suspicious. He straightened up, trying to appear confident. "I can help repair my ship. I will not interfere with your society. I promise." The alien seemed to consider this for a moment, then signaled to the others. Daniel was surrounded and escorted to a nearby structure. The building was unlike anything on Earth. Its walls shimmered and moved slightly as if alive. Inside, the environment was clean, efficient, almost perfect. Daniel noticed devices that floated in midair, moving without wires or engines. He felt a mixture of awe and fear. He was brought before a council of Xylarans. They sat on elevated platforms, watching him with intent. One spoke, its voice calm but commanding. "We have observed your species across space. You are primitive, yet your courage is unusual." Daniel nodded carefully. "I don't want trouble. I just want to fix my ship and leave peacefully." The council communicated silently for a moment. Finally, another alien spoke. "You will remain here for observation. Your actions will determine your fate. Humans are unpredictable. Your ingenuity may be your strength or your undoing." Daniel was taken to a containment area. It wasn't a prison in the human sense. There were no bars or locks, but invisible barriers prevented him from leaving. His room was minimalistic, with only a bed, a table, and a small window looking out onto the alien city. He could see Xylarans moving below, performing tasks in perfect synchrony. Everything was precise, logical, efficient. At first, Daniel felt fear creep in. He was far from home, surrounded by beings far more advanced than humans and completely dependent on their mercy. But after a moment, he took a deep breath. "If I survive this, I need to learn everything I can," he whispered to himself. The next day, the Xylarans brought him out for a trial. It was not a trial for punishment, but a test. They set him in a large room filled with machinery, wires, and devices that he barely understood. His task was to assemble a simple device that controlled the flow of energy to a section of their city. Daniel studied the components carefully. At first, it seemed impossible. The parts were alien. The logic behind the assembly was unlike anything he had seen, and he had limited instructions. He remembered a basic principle his father had taught him. Look for patterns. Don't be afraid to improvise. He began experimenting, testing one component at a time, observing how it interacted with others. Sometimes sparks flew, sometimes the devices shut down entirely, but he adapted quickly, learning from mistakes. After hours of trial and error, he managed to complete the task. The flow of energy stabilized, lights turned on, and machines hummed steadily. The Xylarans observed silently. Daniel held his breath. Then the leader spoke. You are clever, not as weak as we assumed. Your species has potential. Daniel exhaled. It was a small victory, but it gave him hope. If he could demonstrate his intelligence and courage, perhaps he could gain trust, and maybe even survive long enough to repair his ship. Over the following days, Daniel learned more about the Xylarans. He observed their routines, their interactions, their technology. He noticed that while they were precise and powerful, they lacked creativity in their thinking. Their solutions were always logical, following strict rules. Humans, he realized, had an advantage in adaptability, intuition, and boldness. One evening, as he sat by his window watching the alien city, Daniel considered his situation. I need to be careful, he thought, but I can do this. I have to show them that humans are more than just weak creatures. The next trial was more dangerous. The Xylarans brought him to a simulation of a city under threat. A system malfunctioned and the energy grid began to collapse. His task was to stabilize it using tools and components that he barely understood. The room simulated chaos. Alarms blared, lights flickered, and robotic assistants malfunctioned. Daniel's heart pounded, but he refused to panic. He analyzed the situation, looking for patterns, testing ideas quickly. When the standard approach failed, he improvised. Using a combination of alien tools and his own mechanical knowledge, he rerouted the energy flow, stabilizing the system. The Xylarans watched silently as the simulation ended successfully. Daniel's human intuition had solved what their rigid protocols could not. The council murmured among themselves. You are unlike other humans, said the leader. Your courage and ingenuity are remarkable. Perhaps your species deserves closer study. Daniel allowed himself a small smile. It wasn't victory yet, but he had made an impression. In a world where humans were considered weak, he had shown that courage and clever thinking could still matter. That night, Daniel reflected on what he had learned. Survival would not be easy. He had enemies who doubted him and allies who were wary. But he had something no Xylaran had: human adaptability and courage. With those traits, he could navigate this alien world, perhaps even thrive. He looked at the stars above beyond the alien city and thought of Earth. I won't give up, he whispered. Humans can survive anywhere, even here. And for the first time since his crash, Daniel felt a spark of hope. The road ahead was uncertain, but he was ready to prove that human courage and ingenuity could stand among the stars, even in the presence of an alien civilization far beyond his own. The trials, the observation, and the alien society's scrutiny would test him in ways he had never imagined. But Daniel knew one thing for certain. Humans had a unique strength. It wasn't technology or speed or power. It was the ability to think, to adapt, to take risks when others would hesitate. And he was determined to show the Xylarans that their assumptions about humans were wrong. The night passed slowly, and as dawn broke over the shimmering alien city, Daniel prepared himself for the challenges ahead. He did not know what awaited him, but he was ready. Because no matter how advanced the aliens were, human courage and ingenuity could not be measured by their rules alone. And somewhere deep inside, Daniel knew this was just the beginning. Daniel woke to the soft hum of the alien city outside his window. His mind was still racing from the trials of the previous day. The council had been watching him closely, noting every decision, every mistake, every success. He knew that in order to survive, he needed to prove that humans were not only courageous but also capable of thinking in ways the Xylarans could not. Today, the council had a new challenge prepared. A Xylaran official, tall and silver-skinned, entered his room and gestured for him to follow. Daniel obeyed, stepping out into the bustling city streets. The Xylarans moved in synchronized precision. their every motion controlled and exact. Daniel noticed how differently humans and Xylarans approached even the simplest tasks. Where humans improvised, Xylarans followed rigid patterns. That would be his advantage. The official led him to a massive chamber filled with alien machinery. Walls were lined with consoles glowing softly with information streams, and strange hovering devices moved silently around the room. In the center stood a large panel of interconnected circuits, lights blinking erratically. "This is your next trial," the official said, projecting the words directly into Daniel's mind. "A critical system is malfunctioning. You must repair it before it causes damage to the lower city. You may use any tools here. Begin." Daniel examined the system carefully. The circuitry was far more advanced than anything he had seen on Earth, but the principles were the same. Energy flow, connections, feedback loops. He began testing, cautiously moving components, observing the results. Each mistake caused alarms to sound, and mechanical assistants floated over to correct him. But Daniel resisted interference, determined to solve the problem using his own reasoning. Hours passed. Sweat ran down his face as he juggled multiple variables at once. Every time a path failed, he retraced his steps, rethinking his approach. Then, almost instinctively, he combined two components in a way the Xylaran designers had not anticipated. The energy flowed smoothly, stabilizing the panel, and the lights in the chamber turned steady. The council observed silently. Then the leader spoke. "Human, you have exceeded expectations. You solved a problem our logic alone could not. Your ingenuity is unusual. Continue." Daniel allowed himself a small smile. Every success, no matter how small, brought him closer to earning the Xylaran's respect. He realized that survival here required more than just cleverness, it required courage. He had to take risks, make decisions in uncertainty, and stand firm even when the outcome was unknown. In the following days, Daniel was assigned to work with Xylaran engineers on real city projects. He was given access to energy systems, transportation grids, and communication networks. At first, his ideas were met with skepticism. The aliens had never considered improvisation or human intuition. Their designs were flawless according to their logic, but they lacked flexibility. Daniel suggested small changes, rerouting energy flows slightly, adjusting automated machinery to account for unexpected failures. His modifications were subtle, but their impact was noticeable. Machines ran more efficiently, and minor errors in the systems decreased. The engineers began to pay attention. Some even followed his suggestions, though reluctantly. One day, while walking through the city, Daniel noticed a young Xylaran engineer struggling with a complex device. He approached. "Try this," he said, gently demonstrating an alternative method. The young alien hesitated, then followed his instructions. "The device worked perfectly." "You are learning," Daniel said, smiling. The young Xylaran nodded. "Your methods. Unusual but effective." Daniel realized that trust was beginning to form. He was no longer just a human under observation. He was someone who could influence the Xylarans, who could show them that courage and creativity mattered. But he also knew that not everyone would accept this. Some would resist, clinging to their old ways. His next trial came unexpectedly. A portion of the city's energy grid malfunctioned, causing a blackout in a residential district. The Xylaran authorities moved cautiously, following strict protocol. Daniel, however, understood the urgency. Without hesitation, he sprinted toward the affected area, analyzing the problem as he ran. He found the source of the failure, a misaligned energy conduit. The standard procedure would have taken hours, but Daniel improvised. Using spare parts and tools, he stabilized the conduit and rerouted energy flow temporarily. Lights returned to the district, and residents, mostly silver-skinned and tall like the engineers he had seen, emerged from their homes, confused but safe. When he returned to the council, he was not reprimanded. Instead, the leader spoke, its voice calm but approving. "Human, your courage saved lives. Your ability to act decisively in danger is commendable." Daniel felt a surge of pride. He had not only survived the trial, but had shown the Xylarans that humans were capable of bravery in ways they could not fully comprehend. Over the next few days, Daniel continued to work with the Xylarans, blending human intuition with their advanced technology. He noticed that small changes in approach often led to better results. Where the Zalarans relied on repetition, Daniel relied on observation and flexibility. He suggested solutions that had never been considered before, altering energy pathways, adjusting machinery sequences, and creating temporary fixes for complex problems. Each success increased the Council's trust in him. However, not all Xylarans welcomed his influence. A faction of engineers viewed him as a threat. They whispered that humans were unpredictable and could destabilize their society. One evening, Daniel overheard their conversation. "You cannot trust him," said one engineer. "He may solve problems today, but tomorrow he could destroy what we have built." Daniel considered their warning carefully. He understood that his presence was both an opportunity and a danger. He would need to balance influence with caution, demonstrating value without overstepping boundaries. His next challenge came in a form he had not anticipated. A simulation of a catastrophic energy surge was activated in the city center. This time, Daniel was not just an observer. He was in charge of coordinating the response. Alarms blared, robotic assistants malfunctioned, and energy conduits threatened to overload. The Xylarans hesitated, bound by procedure. Daniel acted. He analyzed the situation quickly, issuing instructions and rearranging machinery on the fly. When a pathway failed, he improvised another. When a device overheated, he created a temporary solution to divert energy. His actions were bold, unorthodox, and risky, but they worked. The energy surge was contained without damage, and the city systems returned to normal. The council observed in silence. Then the leader spoke. "Human, your courage in crisis is remarkable. You adapt where others are constrained by rules. Your species may have value in ways we did not anticipate." Daniel nodded, feeling a mixture of relief and determination. Each trial, each success, was a step toward understanding the Xylarans, and toward proving that humans were more than weak primitives. Despite his growing respect among some Xylarans, Daniel knew he had to remain vigilant. Not everyone appreciated his methods. Some watched him with suspicion, waiting for a mistake. He also had to consider his ultimate goal, repairing his ship and returning home. Survival here was important, but so was learning everything he could about this advanced civilization. One evening, as he sat by a window observing the alien city, Daniel reflected on his journey so far. He thought of Earth, of the people he had left behind, and of the countless challenges humans faced across the stars. He realized that courage and ingenuity were not just traits, they were survival tools. They allowed humans to adapt, to take risks, and to succeed where others might fail. He also realized that the Xylarans, despite their technological superiority, lacked something critical: the ability to act creatively under pressure. They followed rules, calculated risks, and relied on precision. Humans, in contrast, could improvise, take bold steps, and think in unpredictable ways. That difference, he understood, could make all the difference in the challenges to come. The next morning, Daniel was called to the council again. This time, they had a new assignment: to work directly with a group of Xylaran engineers on a city-wide infrastructure project. His task was to introduce innovative solutions while respecting the existing systems. It was a test not just of intelligence, but of leadership, creativity, and diplomacy. As he stepped into the chamber where the engineers awaited, Daniel felt a renewed sense of purpose. He knew that his actions in the coming days could shape not only his fate, but also the way the Xylarans viewed humans. He would need courage, ingenuity, and patience, and Daniel was ready. For the first time, he felt that human ingenuity was being recognized, not just by himself, but by an entire alien civilization. The trials ahead would be harder, the stakes higher, but he was determined to prove that humans could stand proud, even among the most advanced beings in the galaxy. Because in this strange world, one thing was clear: courage and creativity could not be measured by technology alone. Daniel took a deep breath, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The city of the Xylarans spread before him, full of opportunity and danger alike. And he knew that his journey was only beginning. Daniel had been living among the Xylarans for several weeks now, and he was starting to understand their society in ways he never expected. Their world was incredible, a perfect blend of technology and precision, but it was also rigid and unforgiving. Every action, every decision seemed dictated by rules, tradition, and logic. Humans, he realized, had something the Xylarans lacked: the ability to improvise, to take risks, and to act with courage when the situation demanded it. Today, he was summoned to the council chamber once again. This time the atmosphere was tense. The leader of the council spoke directly to him, its voice calm but carrying an edge of concern. "Human, there is unrest among our engineers. They question your methods and your influence. You must work carefully, or your presence may destabilize our projects." Daniel nodded, though he felt the familiar surge of determination. He had already faced danger, uncertainty, and skepticism. Now he would face politics. Survival among aliens was not just about ingenuity. It was also about understanding the people, their fears and their motivations. He was taken to a large hall filled with Xylaran engineers and officials. Some glared at him openly, their expressions cold and sharp. Others watched cautiously, curious to see how he would handle the situation. Daniel understood that he needed to act wisely. He could not force respect, but he could earn it through action. "Your task," the council leader explained, "is to oversee the construction of a new energy distribution network. It must be completed efficiently and without error. You will coordinate with our engineers, but your methods are your own. Begin." Daniel studied the plans carefully. The Xylarans had already devised a system that was flawless in design, yet he noticed inefficiencies that even they had overlooked. Some conduits were unnecessarily long, some circuits duplicated. He considered how he could improve the system without offending the engineers who had built it. He gathered a team of younger Xylaran engineers, the ones who had begun to trust him. "We can make this faster if we reroute these lines and use fewer components," he suggested gently. "It will save energy and reduce the chance of future errors." Some engineers resisted immediately. "Your methods are strange." "This design has worked perfectly for centuries," one said. Daniel smiled calmly. "I understand, but sometimes change is necessary. Watch this." He carefully implemented his adjustments, testing each section as he went. The energy flowed more efficiently, the machines ran smoother, and the team began to see the results. Slowly, the doubters softened, and even the skeptical engineers admitted that his ideas had merit. However, not everyone welcomed his success. A group of senior engineers, influential and proud, saw Daniel as a threat. They whispered among themselves, plotting to undermine him. One evening, while Daniel reviewed plans in his quarters, he overheard their conversation. "He is changing everything," one engineer hissed. "If he continues, the council may favor him over us. We cannot allow a human to influence our world." Daniel realized that his survival depended not only on ingenuity, but also on diplomacy. He needed allies, but he also needed to understand the motivations of those who opposed him. He decided to approach the situation with caution, observing and learning rather than confronting directly. The next challenge came unexpectedly. A malfunction in one of the city's transportation hubs caused delays and confusion. The senior engineers blamed Daniel's methods, insisting that his human logic was incompatible with Xylaran precision. The council called him in to explain. Daniel stood before the council, calm and composed. "The issue is not the design," he said clearly. "It is a temporary overload in the system. I have a solution to stabilize it quickly." He moved to the console, analyzing the data. His human intuition allowed him to see a solution that the Xylarans had missed. A temporary rerouting of energy and minor adjustments in timing. Within minutes, the system stabilized. Lights returned, vehicles moved smoothly, and the city resumed its rhythm. The council members exchanged glances. The leader spoke approvingly but sternly. "Human, you act with courage and skill. Even when others doubt, you find solutions. This is commendable." Daniel exhaled quietly. It was a small victory in a larger struggle. His ingenuity had saved the day, but he knew the senior engineers would continue to challenge him. He had to find a way to secure their cooperation or at least minimize their interference. Over the next few days, Daniel worked tirelessly, earning the trust of more Xylarans. He demonstrated that human courage and ingenuity could complement Xylaran precision, not replace it. Slowly, a new understanding began to form. Humans could offer solutions that were unpredictable yet effective. One afternoon, Daniel was called to the observation deck overlooking the city. From this height, he could see the vast network of machines, buildings, and energy conduits working in harmony. The city was alive, but it lacked the flexibility that humans could provide. "This city is beautiful," he thought, "but it can be better." A young Xylaran engineer approached him. Human, your methods are unusual, yet they work. How do you think of solutions so quickly? Daniel smiled. We are used to improvising. On Earth, things don't always work as planned. We learn to adapt, to think fast, and to act when others hesitate. The young engineer nodded, fascinated. Perhaps your kind has something to teach us after all. Daniel realized that he was starting to influence Xylaran society, not just in technology but in thought. His courage, his ability to act in uncertain situations, and his ingenuity were being recognized. For the first time, he felt that humans could truly stand alongside this advanced civilization, not as weak primitives, but as equals in spirit and creativity. Yet challenges remained. The senior engineers continued to plot, and small acts of sabotage began to appear. Misaligned components, disrupted energy flows, and subtle errors in systems Daniel had worked on. He approached these incidents carefully, investigating and correcting them without exposing the culprits immediately. He understood that revealing the conspirators too soon might create unrest among the council and the city. One evening, as he reviewed the city's energy network, he noticed a larger issue. A critical junction was unstable, and failure could cascade across the entire system. The senior engineers had tampered with it subtly, hoping to discredit him. Daniel realized that he had to act quickly. He called a team together, including the young engineers who trusted him. We have a problem, he said calmly. The system is unstable, but we can fix it if we work together. Follow my instructions carefully. For hours they worked, rerouting energy, adjusting conduits, and monitoring the system. Daniel's human intuition guided them, predicting potential failures and improvising solutions on the spot. The young engineers learned from him, following his lead even when the action seemed unconventional. Finally, the system stabilized. Energy flowed smoothly and the city returned to normal. The council observed the results and called him in immediately. You have acted decisively and with skill, the leader said. Even in the face of sabotage and doubt, you have protected the city. Your courage is unmatched. Daniel felt a surge of pride, but he also knew that his work was far from over. Influence among the Xylarans was growing, but so was resistance. He had to continue proving that humans could contribute in ways their rigid society could not. The next day, he was invited to join a strategic planning session with the council. This was unprecedented. Humans were rarely allowed such access. He listened carefully as Xylaran leaders discussed future projects, energy expansions, and transportation networks. Then, when an opportunity arose, he offered a suggestion. If we combine your energy conduits with a flexible routing system, he said, we could reduce delays and improve efficiency across the entire city. It would also allow faster response to emergencies. There was a pause. Some leaders whispered among themselves. Then the council leader spoke. Your insight is valuable. Implement this plan and monitor the results. Daniel worked closely with the team, carefully guiding the implementation. As the system improved, more Xylarans began to see the benefits of his human approach. Even some of the senior engineers who had opposed him reluctantly admitted that his methods worked. For the first time, Daniel felt that he was not merely surviving among the Xylarans. He was making a difference. His courage, ingenuity, and willingness to act in uncertainty were changing the way they viewed humans. That night, Daniel looked out at the city from his quarters. The lights shimmered like a network of stars humming with energy and life. He thought of Earth, of the people who had never believed humans could stand among the stars. And he realized that here in this alien world, human courage and ingenuity were not only surviving, they were thriving. He knew the road ahead would be difficult. Challenges, both technological and political, awaited him, but he also knew that humans had something unique. The ability to act when others hesitated, to improvise when rules failed, and to face danger with courage. And Daniel was ready for whatever came next. Because even in the heart of a civilization far more advanced than his own, human ingenuity could shine and courage could inspire. Ability and ingenuity had made the difference. Over the next days, Daniel continued working with the Xylarans to repair and improve the city. He introduced systems that allowed for rapid response to emergencies, blending human creativity with alien precision. The younger engineers embraced his methods, while even some of the senior skeptics grudgingly accepted that flexibility could coexist with tradition. Daniel also took time to mentor the Xylarans, showing them how to anticipate problems, improvise solutions, and act with courage when facing uncertainty. He demonstrated that mistakes were not failures but opportunities to learn, a concept the Xylarans had rarely considered. One afternoon, a young engineer approached him. "Human, your actions during the storm. We have never seen such courage. You risked your own life to save ours." Daniel smiled, though he felt a twinge of humility. "I didn't do it alone. I had a team and I trusted them. Courage is not just about facing danger. It's about thinking clearly and acting quickly when others hesitate." The young engineer nodded thoughtfully. Perhaps humans are not so fragile after all. Daniel realized that he had not only helped the city survive a disaster, but he had also begun to change perceptions of his species. Where once humans were considered weak and primitive, now they were respected for their courage, ingenuity, and ability to act when rules failed. Yet he knew that challenges were far from over. The Xylaran city was resilient, but natural disasters, technological failures, and political intrigue would continue to test it. And him. He also understood that his growing influence might provoke resistance from those who feared change. But for now, Daniel allowed himself a moment of quiet satisfaction. He had faced one of the greatest crises imaginable and emerged successful. Human courage and ingenuity had proven their worth, even in a civilization far more advanced than his own. As he stood on the observation deck, looking out at the repaired city, he reflected on the journey so far. He thought of Earth, of the people who had doubted humanity's place among the stars. And he knew that this was only the beginning. Humans had qualities that no amount of technology could replicate. Courage, adaptability, and ingenuity. These qualities had saved lives, earned respect, and begun to reshape the way the Xylarans thought. Daniel understood that in time, humans could leave an indelible mark on this civilization. He also understood that his role was far from over. The council had recognized him as more than a visitor. They now saw him as a valuable partner, someone capable of guiding their people through challenges that their rigid logic could not manage. And Daniel knew that he had to continue proving that humans could stand proud, not just survive, but thrive among the stars. The storm was over, but Daniel knew that the universe held many more challenges. He had learned to trust his instincts, to act with courage, and to think creatively when faced with the unknown. These lessons would guide him in the days to come, as he continued to navigate the complexities of Xylaran society and the vast, unpredictable cosmos beyond. For the first time, Daniel felt a deep sense of purpose. He was no longer just a human trying to survive. He was a symbol of human potential, a living example that courage and ingenuity could stand against even the most advanced civilizations. And as the lights of the city shimmered beneath the calm night sky, Daniel prepared for the challenges ahead. He knew that the greatest tests were still to come, but he also knew that humans had something that no technology or protocol could replace: the courage to face the unknown, and the ingenuity to find solutions when none seemed possible. Because in a universe full of rules, structure, and certainty, human adaptability and courage were forces that could never be predicted, controlled, or underestimated. Daniel took a deep breath, feeling the quiet hum of the city beneath his feet. The storm had passed, but the journey was far from over, and he was ready. The city was calm now, a stark contrast to the chaos of the storm that had tested it just days before. Daniel walked through the streets observing the citizens, Xylarans moving with confidence, their systems fully restored, their faith in stability renewed. He felt a deep sense of accomplishment, but he also knew that his journey among them was far from over. The council summoned him to the central chamber once more. This time there was a sense of ceremony in the air. The chamber was filled with engineers, officials, and even citizens who had witnessed his actions during the storm. Daniel entered to find the council leader waiting, its silver eyes reflecting a mixture of admiration and solemnity. "Human," the leader began, its voice resonant and steady, "your actions have transcended our expectations. Not only did you survive among us, but you also demonstrated qualities that our society has rarely seen: courage, ingenuity, and the ability to act decisively in times of crisis." Daniel bowed respectfully. "I only did what I could to help. The city and your people deserve credit as well. Without their support, none of this would have been possible." The council leader nodded. "Your humility is noted. However, it is clear that humans possess a unique combination of traits, creativity, adaptability, and courage, that even our most advanced systems cannot replicate. Your presence has changed the way we perceive your species. Daniel felt a surge of pride. For centuries, humans had been considered primitive, fragile, and incapable of standing alongside advanced civilizations. Now he realized that his actions had begun to redefine that perception, not just as a human, but as a symbol of human potential. Today, the council continued, we formally recognize the value of your species. Humans will be invited to collaborate with the Xylarans on future projects. Your methods, your ideas, and your courage will be studied and respected. You have proven that human ingenuity can complement our technology and advance our society in ways we could not achieve alone. Daniel's mind raced. This was more than he had hoped for. The recognition of humans, the respect earned, and the opportunities for collaboration. This was a moment that would change history. He realized that he had not only survived the trials but had also opened a door for his species among the stars. The council leader gestured toward the chamber doors. You will now be given a choice. You may return to your homeworld, or you may remain here to continue your work with us. Either decision will be honored. Daniel paused. Returning to Earth meant seeing his home, his family, and the world he had left behind. But remaining with the Xylarans offered something extraordinary, the chance to shape the development of an entire civilization, to teach them the value of human courage, and to continue proving that humans were capable of more than anyone had imagined. He thought back to the storm, the trials, and the countless decisions he had made under pressure. He thought of the young engineers who had learned to improvise, the citizens whose lives he had helped protect, and the skepticism he had overcome. He realized that his presence had made a difference, and he wondered if leaving now would undo what he had started. Finally, he spoke. I want to stay, he said. Not for myself, but for the opportunity to help, to teach, and to continue proving that humans can make a difference. My home is Earth, yes, but I believe I can do more here, for both humans and Xylarans, by staying. The council leader regarded him thoughtfully. Your choice is honorable. Your courage and foresight mirror the qualities we value most. You will be welcomed as a collaborator, advisor, and symbol of human potential. We will provide you with all resources necessary to continue your work. Relief and satisfaction washed over Daniel. He had not only survived the alien trials, but had transformed skepticism into respect. He had proven that humans could act courageously, think creatively, and lead in ways even an advanced civilization could not anticipate. In the following weeks, Daniel's role expanded. He led projects combining Xylaran technology with human problem-solving approaches. Energy systems were optimized with innovative rerouting methods. Transport networks became faster and more reliable through flexible scheduling, and emergency protocols were redesigned to allow for rapid improvisation. Each success further strengthened the bond between humans and Xylarans. The younger engineers thrived under his guidance. They began experimenting with ideas that would have been considered unorthodox before. Daniel encouraged them to take calculated risks, to learn from mistakes, and to adapt quickly. The lessons were not just technical, they were cultural. Human ingenuity was changing the mindset of a civilization that had long relied solely on logic and structure. Even the senior engineers who had opposed him initially began to acknowledge the value of human approaches. They remained cautious but had seen undeniable results. Some quietly began consulting Daniel before making decisions, realizing that combining human creativity with Xylaran precision yielded outcomes neither could achieve alone. One evening, Daniel stood on the observation deck overlooking the city. The lights shimmered like a network of stars, alive and vibrant. He reflected on his journey, the trials, the crises, the skepticism, and the eventual recognition. He realized that his courage, quick thinking, and willingness to act under pressure had not only saved lives but had also earned humanity a place among the stars. A young Xylaran approached, her expression filled with curiosity and respect. Human, your efforts have changed the way we think. We once doubted your species, but now we see potential we never imagined. Daniel smiled. Thank you. But this is just the beginning. Humans have a lot to learn from you too. Together we can achieve more than either of our species could alone. She nodded, and together we will. Daniel understood then that he had achieved something extraordinary. He had bridged the gap between two species, showing that courage, ingenuity, and adaptability, were universal traits that could transcend worlds. The Xylarans had learned to value humans, not for strength or technology alone, but for the qualities that had always defined them: creativity, resourcefulness, and bravery. The city itself seemed to hum in approval. Machines worked in harmony, citizens moved confidently, and energy flowed smoothly through the systems Daniel had helped redesign. His human touch had left a permanent mark on the alien civilization. As the days turned into weeks, Daniel continued his work, mentoring, innovating, and collaborating. Xylaran society slowly began to embrace a new way of thinking, one that valued both tradition and flexibility, logic and courage. The influence of humans began to spread across other cities and sectors, setting the stage for a new era of collaboration and mutual respect. One morning, the council called a ceremony in Daniel's honor. Engineers, officials, and citizens gathered to acknowledge his contributions. The leader of the council addressed the assembly. "Today we honor a being from a distant world, a human who has demonstrated courage, ingenuity, and the ability to act when others could not. Your presence has not only saved our city but has changed our society forever. Humans are no longer outsiders. They are valued partners and symbols of ingenuity and bravery." Daniel stepped forward, humbled. "I am honored," he said simply. But this was not a solo effort. Every engineer, every citizen who worked with me played a role. Together we showed what can be achieved when courage meets ingenuity, and when humans and Xylarans work as one. Applause echoed through the chamber. The recognition was complete. Humans, once considered weak and primitive, were now acknowledged as capable, courageous, and innovative. Daniel had proven that even a single human could inspire change on an alien world. That night, Daniel looked out over the city one last time before retiring to his quarters. The lights twinkled, the machines hummed, and a sense of peace settled over the metropolis. He realized that courage was not just about facing danger, it was about making a difference, inspiring others and creating a legacy. He thought of Earth, of the people who had never believed humans could survive in space, let alone thrive among advanced aliens. Now he carried proof that humans could adapt, improvise, and excel even in environments far beyond their homeworld. And as he drifted to sleep, Daniel felt a sense of purpose stronger than ever. Humans had a place among the stars, not as weak primitives but as beings of courage, ingenuity, and resilience. He had shown that the human spirit could shine, even in the midst of the most advanced civilizations. Because courage was universal, ingenuity was timeless, and humans, despite their imperfections, were capable of greatness beyond measure. Daniel smiled, knowing that this was not the end of his journey, it was only the beginning.